Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. Today I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 replay cast. Should be a good one here. We've got another Terran versus Zerg. It seems to be a streak of them lately, but I've looked around for good games and most of them happen to be TvZs from what I've seen. Now, spawning up in the top right-hand corner of the map, black-pink, it is Root SuperNova. I've cast a few of his games lately, so I've probably given him the rundown a few times. Retired Korean Terran player, plays a lot of mech, things like that, but plays at quite a high level. He's working his way back up there. And then spawning down in the bottom left-hand side of the map is actually a player I'm pretty impressed with as far as how well he does. His name is JimRising, formerly playing for Team Root, although I think he's been off Root for a while now. And he's a Mexican Zerg streamer, pardon me, clearly he's a Zerg. And I believe he may be playing for Meloria Esports now, if I'm not mistaken. So JimRising is a streamer, to my knowledge, but he plays at a very high level. He, I think, had a run at being a pro for a while, and that's why I'm very impressed. He just plays non-stop, to my knowledge. He plays at quite a high level as far as foreigners go, despite not being a quote-unquote pro gamer. And that's what I really like about JimRising, because he puts out really good games often, and then he also puts out a lot of his replays, so that's why we see a lot of him, and I believe I've cast him on my channel a fair few times as well. So as far as the build coming out of these two guys, we've got a pretty standard stuff. Hatchery for SuperNova, not going for the Reaper here, going for a Marine, just scouting out across the map. Well, the SCV is actually moving out first, so wanting to be sure that nothing cheeky's going on. Really, the SCV scout would identify if there was an early pool or anything like that, but he'll see everything safe and sound here. Sees the normal timing, turns around home, knows that he's safe to look around. He does have a Marine out on the map, trying to find an Overlord or two. If Terrans skip the Reaper, they usually do try and catch an Overlord because it's quite a huge advantage early on in the game. I mean, 100 minerals at the start of the game is quite a big deal of StarCraft. Feelings on the way for JimRising? No Reapers to protect from this time though, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Going into speed, but then stopping to mine his gas here. So looks like between these two guys it's going to be a pretty standard game. Nothing cheeky or anything like that. SuperNova is a Terran that plays a lot of mech, so it will most likely be a mech Terran versus Zerg. JimRising, I'm not too sure how he'll play. If I recall correctly, he's a player who really favors Hydra, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Hydraling Bane. JimRising just getting up that third base, which is completely fine. It's not like he has to worry about any aggression or anything like that just yet. He's been producing queens as well, so going to be getting that creep spread started relatively soon, I imagine. And then SuperNova may actually be putting the aggression on JimRising here, as he's already starting an armory, starting 2 Hellions as well, so he is going to be going for quite a bit of aggression here. I mean, an armory at the 330 mark is pretty early, pretty significant as far as aggression goes. JimRising currently just on the Lings here, so we'll see if he keeps making queens. Queen's very useful for defending this kind of attack. I believe SuperNova will likely start a Banshee as he's going to swap over his starport. Some players like to go for the Medivac, but it seems he will swap it over there, so will likely be a cloaked Banshee with with Hellbats, pardon me. But then we also see a third base on the way, so it's not going to be a large commitment out of SuperNova, and he actually goes for a Viking instead of the Banshee. We'll see how this timing works out as this Overlord's moving on into the main base of SuperNova. Gonna see what he can see. There's also +1 attack on the way. That's interesting. So SuperNova, he's cut Hellion production, so he's actually not it's not looking like he's going to be going for a strong attack or anything like that. He's actually got no Hellions out on the map, so just a very early armory. Pardon me with my wrong call, but usually an armory screams Hellbats, but no, it's actually just screaming very fast +1 in this game. So this is an interesting play. Maybe he wants the Hellions to try and be able to deal with Lings or things like that better. Maybe he just wants to get a high upgrade advantage for early on, or maybe he's going to go into Cyclones, which really do benefit from weapon upgrades here. JimRising saw the starport, so So, and he saw the cloak being researched, so he threw up the 3 spores. SuperNova, a player who does love his Banshees, so even though it was scouted, will go for them, I believe. Not going to cancel that or anything. JimRising, wanting to be safe, making the Roach Warren, as he did see the armory too. That armory going to be putting him on edge for a Hellbat attack and things like that, so he'll likely squeeze out a few Roaches just to be safe. There's 1 Viking already killed off 2 Overlords, looking for a 3rd, maybe even going to get 4, although I believe that 4th will be saved. Although, it's going to be a little close here. The Queens are going to need to move into position to save that. It's getting weak. This Viking's slaughtering these Overlords here. That's going to be 4 going down for JimRising. Right now he is making 7 Roaches, so SuperNova sort of dealing damage in this game just by sort of his build order. Nothing, no major attacks or aggressions or anything like that. But JimRising is expecting a Hellbat attack. JimRising lost 4 Overlords to 1 Viking, so it is a bit of a rough start for JimRising here. SuperNova just seems to be content to be going into that macro play, already landing his 3rd CC. He's playing it quite greedy himself, however JimRising isn't really in a position to go for a large counterattack or anything like that. So SuperNova just happily macroing up, already on his way to +2 ship, or +2 vehicle weapons, pardon me. Throwing up some more factories as well, so he's going to be playing this heavy factory style. And I believe he did make a Banshee or 2 somewhere. Yes, there's a few Banshees out on the map. One of them has 2 kills, that's it. So JimRising not really taking any damage in regards to the aggression, but he lost 4 Overlords to 1 Viking, which is quite a high number. Or 5 now at this point, apparently, pardon me. So that's a lot of dead Overlords at this point in the game. And then it's really just the fact that he invested in these early Roaches. So JimRising gonna be in a bit of a rough spot. Just looking at the worker count right now, SuperNova's got quite a lead. SuperNova will have an upgrade lead, a pretty significant one at that. JimRising now getting up to Hydra Den, producing quite a few more drones, so he will be macroing up. However, SuperNova in the game of macro is going to be looking pretty well off here. Throwing up another CC already, so looking to get up his 4th base. Going to be able to produce quite a few tanks here, and if he just continues to keep solid tank production, I believe SuperNova will be safe here. The 2 Banshees are now coming in. Gonna try and get something done at this natural. Nothing getting done there. The Queen sort of shoo those away. SuperNova really just has them as glorified scouts at this point, but he's kept them alive so far. SuperNova also producing Vikings as well. Got a reactor on that starport, so going to be having Vikings as his primary anti-air there, although there's nothing for JimRising that he's going to have to worry about in the air. A hive on the way for JimRising now, so maybe he is going to want to try to go into those Vipers. Vipers, Roach, Hydra is pretty much the best anti-mech composition you can get, sort of for the mid-game anyway. SuperNova producing 3 tanks at a time. His +2 ship weapons is about to finish here. We'll see if he starts this +3 right away. If he keeps these upgrades rolling, it could become very problematic for JimRising when the fight actually starts. JimRising, though, doesn't seem too interested in actually having a fight at this point. He's really just macroing up, securing a 5th base right now, and his creep spread is actually fantastic. SuperNova has had these Hellions, he's had these Banshees out on the map, but not much creep spread has been denied. SuperNova is actually looking to maybe go for a move out here, so this could be a pretty big deciding factor in the game if he does push out. Right now we've got a small Ling run by, moving in at the 4th, gonna maybe kill off a Hellion, but that's all we'll get. Nope, the 1 Hellion does survive there. JimRising a little worried right now, making 15 Roaches. He knows these tanks and Hellions are coming in. These Hellions are actually just going to dive on top of the army right now. Reinforcements are coming in. The Hellbats transform immediately. They don't have the transformation servos, but they certainly do get right on top of that army there. SuperNova is now pushing in, and JimRising is going to have a bit of a tough hold right now. There's already 3 siege tanks set up, and these are +2 siege tanks, so they will tear through the army. There may not be enough buffer for SuperNova. This could have been a bit of a bold move out here, and it seems that it certainly was. He's now bleeding off some of the tanks. The army is in fact getting on top of this. However, the tanks are shelling away, dealing so much damage there. A lot of the tanks have fallen though, so it seems that JimRising may just clean this up. He's got some reinforcements coming in there. There's 1 siege tank left, a few units on the ground. SuperNova, we'll see if he backs off or if he tries to push forward. JimRising on 90 drones, almost 89 there. So he's going to be able to produce a lot of these units here if he just holds on. So could be a, looks like he'll be able to remax pretty quickly compared to SuperNova here. SuperNova is on 4 bases. He's gonna have all those mules he can drop as a Terran player. However, JimRising does just have a very good economy. And when we're not dealing with a maxed out situation right now, it really does just benefit when he's just trading. So now we've got Hydras moving in. JimRising gonna try and clean up some of these tanks. Most of the Hellbats have been whittled away right now, and JimRising is forced back though. Can't really get up that ramp. Those 3 siege tanks just dealing so much damage there. One of them on 14 kills. Looking at the units lost here. Quite a few Hydras and Roaches have gone down. Resources lost-wise, JimRising is behind, but he has a very good income. And looking at this, he actually got a flank with these Hydras, and he's going to fully surround these tanks. So, reducing SuperNova's tank count once again here. SuperNova forced to set up these tanks immediately just so that they won't be caught off guard there. The tanks are doing massive damage to these Hydras as they come in. The Hellions are trying to cover, however, there's really not quite enough here. The Vikings could land, and they do. Transformation Servos does seem to be researched now. So this army for JimRising will be pushed back once again, but JimRising actually now up to 91 drones, so he's crossed that 90 threshold here. He's just happily mining an absurd amount here, and he's just producing and producing, and while he's trading with SuperNova, he's really winning out, and we can tell that by the supply. He's up 50 supply. SuperNova has a very good economy of his own. He's on 4 bases, 4 pretty healthy bases at that. He's now looking to get up his own 5th, but he just traded off a lot of units, and as far as a Meching Terran not being able to get set up like that could be costly. SuperNova now moving in with these Hellions, maybe trying to intercept this hatchery that JimRising looks like he wants to build the extractors before the hatchery. Some Hellions are going to get into the base, going to start working away on that drone count. This could be a way for SuperNova to really sort of even out the game right now. Supply-wise, though, JimRising losing a few drones might not be the worst thing, as he is maxed out. Well, yeah, as I say that, he starts 10 more, so he's going to have even more than before. JimRising has just been content, though. He is maxed out. He's ahead 30 army supply right now, and if he does just keep trading, I believe this will go well for him if he can knock SuperNova's army count down once again. SuperNova's trying to secure a 5th base, however, there's only 2 siege tanks, and the sensor tower is going to be a little bit late. There's all these Hydras, all these Vipers, and the Vipers will probably abduct these tanks here, and they go down immediately, so SuperNova's in a bit of trouble right now. He's got 1 or 2 more siege tanks moving forward, however, these bases can just be sniped off the Hydras with such high DPS here. The SCVs are trying to save one of the other bases. The Vikings are coming in, which can push back the Vipers here. However, SuperNova has really been pushed off his own base. He has had a very high worker count. However, he has lost some. Losing that base was also unfortunate. However, he is getting up this 5th base. Really needs to turn that into a planetary. And JimRising, I think something that I haven't really spoken too much about of how he's having such a good flow in this game is his creep spread. The creep's pretty much touching from one of SuperNova's bases to the other, so he can just freely move around right now. SuperNova identifies where the army of JimRising is, knows he needs to be on point here. A Thor gets abducted, 2 siege tanks abducted as well there. And there's also no high ground vision for a second, so they didn't quite fire. JimRising now just happily attacking. He is very rich at the moment. He's got a very good economy. SuperNova's actually dropped mules though, so his income is higher. But SuperNova losing at this base, trying to hold on here. However, JimRising is just collapsing on top. This army supply-wise, it's not too poor for SuperNova. However, these blinding clouds are absolutely massive for JimRising. Gonna pick off a few of those siege tanks there. There are a few more set up. These Vikings will need to land to support these tanks, and the tanks dealing actually so much damage there, though. These are +3 siege tanks, and they just slaughter Hydras without support. SuperNova trying to come back into this game here, trying to get some counter harassment done. SuperNova not on a bad economy still. Yes, he lost that base there, however, he has resecured this other one. He's got mules, still a healthy worker count, so as long as he does some counter damage and does not die, he can hold on here. However, JimRising does it. Oh, all those drones! Oh my lord! Okay, so quite a few drones died there. JimRising happily macroing up. He's going to be heading into 3-3 upgrades, so he'll be taking... Yep, well, actually, pardon me, SuperNova is getting his own 3-3, so it will be 3-3 versus 3-3, and generally that actually does work out quite well for the Meching player. However, JimRising getting all sorts of other upgrades, all sorts of other tech. He's getting a neural there, so he'll be able to neural parasite SuperNova's SuperNova's units. Really, he's just a rich Zerg getting all the tech that he can afford. JimRising, though, doesn't quite the largest bank, as he has been trading off units while SuperNova identifies all these Hydras. JimRising, he has some Vipers somewhere. He will need good blinding clouds to engage. He's even making Corruptors for his inevitable Broodlord transition here. SuperNova's gonna have to hang on. He's resecuring this base once again, building a sensor tower so he won't be quite caught off guard this time. Some Hellbats may be able to cancel this base. Every move like this is huge for SuperNova. However, these Hellbats are going to go down. Army supply-wise, SuperNova will actually end up in the lead at some point, as JimRising down or maxed out at 200, but he's got 20 extra workers here. So when SuperNova maxes out, he will have a very, very terrifying army. And this is a lot of siege tanks right now. It is 22 siege tanks. There's almost as many siege tanks as Hydras right now. So that is the supply gap right there. Some Broodlords are on the way, but SuperNova does have a Viking count. He's been very good with keeping that going. Some Vipers are moving in. They abduct a few of the tanks. Some of the other ones are firing. A blunt or a parasitic bomb does go off, forcing some of the Vikings to land there. The Broodlords were made, but I'm not sure where they are. They're actually not in this fight, so JimRising bleeding off a fair bit of supply there. He's now making Infestors and Corruptors, so he will want to have that air control there. SuperNova is producing more Vikings, though. He did keep that base secured, though, so while it is almost mined out, every base does matter. He will want to be looking to taking another base relatively soon here, as his income is dropping right now. His main base is mined out. His natural start, well, basically mined out. His third base, he's only just retaken it. His fourth, quite healthy for the time being, however that will be running out relatively soon. Some of the patches are drying up there, so really it is this one base for SuperNova that's keeping him in it, gonna allow him to really have this one terrifying army, and he may be pushing in. SuperNova has a very scary army, and JimRising is at 100 drones here. That's just so much less army supply compared to SuperNova. So JimRising may have overdroned a little bit here. We'll have to see how this one fight goes. SuperNova has identified there's Infestors. He's seen the Vipers. He's going to have to be careful with his Vikings right now. He's got all these siege tanks, but there's really not much on the ground for JimRising to deal with this SuperNova. These tanks may just actually have to split up depending on how the air fight goes and just try and hit every base of JimRising. There's not much to respond to them. There's actually 6 Hydras on the ground. So these tanks certainly will win the ground fight. SuperNova just needs to focus on the air one. Thor coming forward to try and do his best. SuperNova, it really will come down to these parasitic bombs and fungal growths, I believe. We'll see if infested Terrans are thrown out or fungal growths here. One parasitic bomb goes down. Good split by SuperNova. Pulls out those infected Vikings there. We have the rest of the Vikings are working away on these Broodlords, are working away on the Corruptors, and this is such a important fight here. It looks like that JimRising may actually lose out. There's the Thor in the background even helping a little bit, although it's distracted by the Broodlings, but there seems to be more Vikings than Corruptors here, so SuperNova will win out. His tanks are also rolling forward, already picking off that one base, going to continuously move forward, and I'm not sure JimRising has an answer here. He has invested oh so much into his air army, into his economy, but SuperNova may just snowball here. JimRising Hydras are pushing forward but not getting anything done. JimRising really needs to pull back everything and consolidate, I believe, for SuperNova may have just done it. The supply, JimRising has now fallen. He's got 74 drones and he's lost quite a few, but not much of an army. He's trying to produce one as fast as he can, making Hydras and Lings. However, SuperNova does still have quite a few siege tanks here, and just by good army control and just by investing into a very strong army, SuperNova may have done it right now. JimRising is getting on top of this army, though. SuperNova has all these siege tanks set up. The Vikings land. They are going to clean up most of the Hydras, and I think SuperNova may have done it here. Vikings moving forward. Siege tanks cleaned up everything. GG gets called. SuperNova, very well played, taking down JimRising. Was in a bit of a rough spot for a while there. However, JimRising ultimately didn't do enough damage and ultimately made, I guess, just one error there, and that was not having a big enough army, being too greedy. He wanted to be one of those Zergs that was prepared for everything, but wasn't prepared just for a large attack. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this cast, feel free to let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment, whatever. And if you do enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe, as I'm trying to break 1,000 subscribers by February 20th. So I'll see you guys next time.